Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Tearing It Up podcast. Today, we've got a founder story. Also, you guys know if you've listened along for a while now that it is not ever just a founder story. It's never just, hey, here's this person, here's how they got there, here's their company, buy their shit. It is way deeper than that. We're going to dive into what Nora of Neve is doing and who knows what else. We were just having a great talk before we got on, so I feel like we'll dive into some other things too that hit home for some of you guys out there. We have talked about nutrition on the podcast recently a few times with fueling for activity and whatnot, and I just being a personal trainer, active person, most of our audience out there, you're active ladies getting out, getting after it. I think it's just so important for us because the majority of this audience, you guys out there, grew up in a time where we didn't get the best education on nutrition and on fueling. And while that narrative is changing and a lot of us are learning different habits and different things, I still think some of those core things are stuck with us or just habits we created rather than maybe beliefs that it's just trying to break free from a habit, like just eat the breakfast or eat while you're out there, like how to fuel right for everyone is so individual. So I love having these conversations and these guests on who have these amazing companies who are out here trying to deliver you great nutrition to fuel your adventures in an easy, sustainable way. So with that, I'm going to introduce Nora here. First off, Nora, will you tell everyone where you are at today as we record, like physically in the world?
Yes, physically in the world, I'm at my home in Edwards, Colorado, which is 20 minutes west of Vail, so kind of between Vail and Eagle, Colorado.
Amazing. We've got a lot of Colorado guests on. I love it. I mean, between Colorado and Tahoe, I think it's just the meccas of outdoor activities. It's like where a lot of outdoor businesses are grown. We have a lot of East Coast too. I mean, obviously everywhere you go, you can find the outdoors and create amazing things. Are you from Colorado originally though, or when did you start
No.
calling it home?
So, I'm actually from Scranton, Pennsylvania. So I hear the chuckles in the audience already. So The Office. It's a great conversation starter. So technically, I'm from 20 minutes away from Scranton. My mom was born and raised there, and everyone knows Scranton. So I actually came out to Colorado for college. I went to CU Boulder, and that was in 2014. And it was really easy to never go back to Pennsylvania, and I've been here ever since.
That happens a lot out there, and here in Tahoe, there's a lot of East Coast. I mean, transplants from everywhere, but it seems like the East Coast more. And I think when you're in a ski community, that happens because the mountains and the snow and all that is much different than it is on the East Coast. So those
Yes.
skiers specifically like go out west and they're like, "Yeah, we're staying here." No shade on the East. I've heard great things, but it's different. It's just different.
So when I was applying for colleges, I was like, "How are you supposed to know what you wanna do when you grow up, when you're that young?" And my mom was like, "If you apply and get into CU, like, we'll go visit." And all I heard was ski trips. I was like, "Cool." And so I got in, and we went to visit the college campus, and I was like, this is beautiful." Like, you don't have it's very different beautiful in Pennsylvania or back east. But yeah, I quickly fell in love and just the access to the mountains, and, after I visited the campus, I was like, there was no other option for me.
I love it. That's amazing. So you heard ski trip in your head. So obviously it sounds to me anyways that you were a skier back east as well.
Yes.
Um Tell us a little bit I guess about your background in the outdoors and outdoor activities and
Yes.
starting to weave our way through how you started a nutrition company specifically for fueling these outdoor adventures.
Yeah, totally. So I started skiing when I was, like, 5 years old. So I grew up ski racing, kind of the typical East Coast ski racer, and, my mom was a ski instructor, so every weekend, we would drive to the mountain together. She would go instruct, and I would go have, yeah, just be training all day, and that was many, many, many years of my life. And so my mom was, like, skinning up our, like, local Pennsylvania resort on, like, frame bindings and nylon skins, and I
Oh
was like,
my god.
Mom, what, like, are you crazy? You're walking uphill for fun?" Like, I didn't get it. And she was doing, like, century rides and rock climbing and ice climbing and traveling the world to go mountaineering in Nepal, and I was like, my mom's whack. And and I didn't understand it, but I was always I'm lucky that I've always been, like, naturally athletic, and so I was always playing sports in college, and so when it came time to go to college, I was, like, aware of this thing called backcountry skiing, and I loved ski racing, but I was ready to explore just out of curiosity, explore what the other, like, avenues were. And so I went to CU Boulder and I started backcountry skiing and I fell in love. And for the first time in my life, I felt like I could be myself, like I could be who I was. I felt welcomed. I was meeting people who like just were people. Like in high school, it's hard because people are like judgmental. And I was like
Mhm.
into these quote unquote alternative sports for Pennsylvania. And so yeah, I just fell in love with this thing called backcountry skiing, and, I was the only woman. A lot of the times I'd go out on long days, and it was me with a bunch of guys, which is great, um, and there just weren't a lot of women who I was able to ski with, and it was so weird because it's not normal for a female to look up to her mom as,
Mhm.
like, that inspiration for being the one doing the 100-mile rides, the one skiing up their local mountain, the athletic one, essentially, and so, now reflecting, I realize, wow, what a gift to have my mom be that inspiration, and now I take her backcountry skiing, and we go mountain biking together, and that's been really cool, so, um yeah, it just was curiosity and love, and seeing my mom do it, I think just planted this seed.
That's incredible because, like you mentioned, especially our generation are a few years younger than me, I think, but we're still in that time frame where we now are the ones, I think, who are out doing these activities on our own, finding more of us out there together, creating these communities, building things out there to show our children, daughters, nieces, friends, whatever it is, that we're fully capable and can get out there and do these things on our own as women. But growing up, we didn't have that many mentors. So it's amazing that in that time period that your mom was the one doing that and doing these things that were she wasn't just going out to the mountain skiing while you were in the race camps or training or whatever practices, she was skinning and, like, traveling and doing all these crazy things that you definitely did not see many women doing who were your mom's age or in your mom's generation, so amazing way to grow up, and it's just, like, the proof in the pudding, like, you are you're the proof in the neve that what you see really does matter when growing up and can form so much of who you are, so it's super important to stay true to ourselves, to live true to ourselves. So, having that kind of inspiration and getting yourself out there, now being the one who can take her out on these adventures, I'm sure is also just another thing that yeah, not a lot of people have like, I love my mom to death, but I'm not taking her on a mountain bike ride. I wish I could, but, like, it's just not in the cards, so that's awesome, amazing to have. Everyone has different relationships with what they're doing, but I definitely would aspire to be the one who right now, I don't have kids, I don't know where that will land, but I do have a niece, and all I think about is when I can get her on, like, trails and get her out there and get her on skis or a snowboard or something and do those awesome things with her, so from the beginning, she's never questioning it.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't realize how rare it was until I realized, "Oh, I have, like, one girlfriend who has the mom who was, like, the inspiration for getting out," and so I think I quickly was like, "Oh, this isn't normal to have the mother be the one, like, imparting these types of activities," so I feel really lucky, and that feels really special, so I'm very grateful for that.
Absolutely. When would you say that you realized that you were the anomaly here, that this wasn't normal? 'Cause I have a similar background in that thought of just how I grew up in a male-dominated sport, but never was made to feel like I didn't belong. All of my male counterparts and family and everyone was very supportive of me, and it was later in life that I was like, holy cow, not a lot of women had this support, and it definitely formed the way I think about things. And the reason that I've built what I've built and what I'm doing with the podcast is because I'm like, not everyone has this. Not many people honestly have it. So yeah, when did you actually come to that realization?
So growing up, as I mentioned, my mom, I remember very distinctly, she went, trekking in Nepal for a month, and she came home, and you'll start to see how kind of my story forms
Mm.
here, but she came home and she hosted a huge dinner party, like, invited all of her athlete friends, and she was also going out with mostly men, like, she had a few girlfriends who would go on these trips too, but then I saw, like, this community of people who were supporting and in celebrating the trip. It wasn't competitive or it was just like, we're just my mom cooked it for everyone, which is you're starting to see things now. So
Yeah.
she, like, she would host these, like, such fun parties with all her friends, just celebrating and sharing memories from the trip as, like, a form of love and passion and enjoyment. And I think that really stuck with me because I didn't like, I've always kind of felt like, okay, like, high school, not the greatest, but most people don't have a great high school experience, and I always kinda felt like, "Oh, you guys kinda go through life, like, is this what people are are like?" And so I think when I went to college and started to, like, go on these backcountry ski trips and see that I could be myself and feel comfortable being myself, I started to be like, "Oh, this is, like, a really welcoming environment," and I could pull on the thread of seeing my mom, like, have such passion and deep, deep friendships with these people she would go on these adventures with. And so I kind of became an endurance athlete by accident, I think I would say. It was just out of curiosity. I was like, "What happens if we go ski that or ski that?" And so you naturally would go deeper and deeper and deeper. And so I guess I didn't really fully recognize that I was the only woman. It was just like, "Oh, I'm also interested in skiing that," or that being the objective. And so I think when I got older, I kinda looked around and I was like, "Oh, I am always with men." Or, like, stuff happens when you're, like, on your period and you're, like,
Yeah.
roped up to 3 guys and you're
Yeah.
like, "Oh, sorry guys, we gotta stop real quick, like, gotta take care of business." So, like, stuff like that, I was like, "Oh, yeah, I just don't really have any close girlfriends to do this stuff with," and I think that was kind of, like, why?
Mhm.
So I think it happened slowly, I made that realization, but I think I also always felt comfortable with people who love the outside because I felt like there was always a connection, and so
Mhm.
for me, I think it took a little not a little bit longer because I always knew I was, like, pretty athletic and pretty willing to push myself and deal with physical and mental pain to, like, go further. Um, so it was a slow recognition, I think.
I think that's great because, again, as I mentioned, that was similar to me, but I find that was very, like, more helpful, kind of like the ignorance is bliss type mentality where you didn't realize that. So it didn't stop you from ever doing anything too young. Because sometimes if you have these realizations maybe a little bit too young, then you start to notice, like, wait, I am the only girl, or like, and
Yeah.
maybe feel a little self conscious or a certain way about it, especially in those high school years, which is it is so wild how formative they can be of your world around you and how they can shape your mind, and it is such a tiny, tiny blip on the map that it's just like anytime, kids are having trouble through high school, it's like, "Just hang on because this is not it. This is
Yeah.
not fucking it. Like, get through it, get
Yeah.
over it. You can leave it behind. It's 4 years of your life." But yeah, it can just affect your, like I said, view of everything so, so much, but, yeah, it's, super helpful to sometimes not come to these realizations till a little bit later, look
Yeah.
back like, "Oh, wow,
And
would you not look at it look at that."
and I saw my mom doing this stuff with mostly men too. And
Mhm.
so for me, it was never weird. It was
Mhm.
just like, you just go out and ski with friends. Like, it was
Yeah.
never, "I'm skiing only with men." It was like, "I'm going to ski with friends." And so I think that that's how it became okay and comfortable with me. There's also, like, you try to ski with people who are the same physical and wrist tolerance as you. So it was a lot of that too. So it just, like, naturally progressed to the point that I was like, "Wait, change up."
Awesome. Yeah, so as you were kinda telling the story here, we're digging in a little, mentioning I have a feeling this big meal and athletes and all of that led us to somewhere. You're in Colorado, skiing, doing all the outdoor activities and whatnot. At what point does, kind of nutrition come more into your life as a priority? Was this something that you were taught, that your mom always prioritized? Like, sounds like feeding people maybe is one of the things she loved to do. Tell us a little
Yeah.
bit about, yeah, that aspect of being an athlete in life and whatnot,
Yeah.
how it played in your life.
It was 7 p.m. dinner to, like, a traumatic level, like, you had to be home at 7 p.m. But yes, that was always a mechanism for love, was food, like, even going back to my grandparents' house, like, you go to their grandparents' house, "You hungry? Do you want some ice cream?" You know, so it's always like and so my that's what my mom did too, like, I always joke my love language is food. Like, I love people like, "Hey, I'm coming over for dinner, like, what can I bring?" I'm like, "Don't you dare bring anything." Um, but anyway, I started to get into, backcountry skiing, and I said I'm an accidental endurance athlete. I just was doing started to do these really big, long days in the mountains. I had not a clue how to fuel myself, and that led to underfueling, and it was an accident. I didn't know, like, I didn't know any better, but, as athletes, we're told, "Go to the energy bar aisle, pick out something, be happy with it."
Mhm.
And it was gross. Like, I would eat an energy bar, it would take me, like, all day, like, and so I wasn't eating enough, and I'd get home starving, and I was like, "Oh, great, like, I worked up an appetite," but that's completely wrong. And so that also led to some, like, disordered eating tendencies. And the more I got into it, I was like, "Okay, we gotta fix this," and I really love to cook and bake, so I started making all my own trail snacks, and it was so much better than, like, a gross, disgusting, like, dry bar, and I was like, "Oh, there's actually so much creativity you can bring into the backcountry," whether it's, like, homemade muffins or scones or whatever, like, you don't have to go to like, the energy bar aisle's not it, and so I started to recognize, "Oh, there's so much creativity here," and started to really educate myself on how do I need to fuel my body so I feel good, and how do I get to the car and not be hungry? That started to become my goal. At the same time, I noticed a lot of people using applesauce pouches and literally baby food in the backcountry. I was like, so fascinating. I'm a vegetarian. I'm like, okay, clearly people want like it's high carb, really fast and easy to digest, and it's real food. Like applesauce is apples. So there's clearly a need that people want like this refreshness no matter where they are. Um and I actually spent a month skiing in Chile, and it's a very meat-heavy culture. I mentioned I'm a backcountry skier, so I was like, "I guess I'm gonna try the baby food," and they had, like, interesting flavors like guava, so I was like, "This'll be fun," and I'd be mid-boot pack in a very precarious situation, and I'd have a pouch in, like, my pant pocket, and I would go to eat it, like, where I couldn't slip, and I'd be able to eat, no tummy problems, reseal it back up if I needed to, put it back in my pocket, and I was like, "Whoa, there's something to this pouch thing, like, baby's got it good." Um, and, um but the problem was there was no calories in it, like 60 calories in an
Mm.
applesauce pouch, that's not enough for an adult, let alone an adult athlete. And I looked around and there was no, like, high-calorie athlete-specific version. So I teamed up with a registered dietitian and I created Neve. I was like, "I want really simple plant-based ingredients, I want them to be all athlete-specific, so every ingredient needs to have a why."
Mhm.
I want it to be for endurance sports, that's why we have fat in the product, and I just want it to speak to athletes. I don't want this to be like, a lot of fuel is so intimidating, like, it makes you feel like you have to be this kind of athlete to ride the ride, and I was
Mhm.
like, "That's BS." Like, you don't have to be that kind of athlete, so I really wanted to create a brand that instead of pushing people away and was, like, highlighter green and black, I wanted to say, "Hey, you're outside enjoying yourself, come and hang out with this brand, we'll take care of all the science, and you just have fun."
I really love what you touched on about it being intimidating because I recently chatting with another gal from a fuel company. Like this conversation, I think for me, for any like sport nutrition comes up is that intimidation because you think that you have to be doing this crazy thing. Like you mentioned, you were accidental endurance athlete. You're going backcountry skiing, doing like maybe bigger pursuits and whatnot. And a lot of us out here are not, and maybe or, like, maybe we did, and now we're not, or maybe we never were, whatever it is, maybe you're getting out for an hour or 2, so you're like, I don't need this sport-specific nutrition because I'm just gonna go out the backyard or whatever." You know, for me, it's like going on a I think I get in this headspace living in Tahoe where just a, 2-hour ride isn't much, right? Because
Mhm.
of all the other crazy athletes here, and I'm like, I gotta
Yeah.
remember that, like, no, it still does, like, that can be a lot, especially depending on how much elevation you gain, this, that, or the other, but not only that, it could be a light ride or ski or run or whatever you're doing, but again, we may not be fueling right before like, am I eating a full breakfast before I'm going out on a ride? Probably not. So these sport nutrition, even for my hour ride, like really are helpful. And you don't have to be doing these crazy, crazy things to support yourself, especially depending on what stage your life is in. As this women, there's mothers out there with young children or postpartum, all of that, where you definitely have to pay more attention to your nutrition because you're fueling your body for someone else too. So it's,
Yeah.
uh, it's like trying to make it, again, more welcoming and break this barrier down that you don't have to be this extreme athlete to have a pouch, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah. Yes, also, I'm off Strava for that reason exactly. I'm like, "This is not good for my mental health." Um, but yes, I agree completely, and I hope that I can show that, like, I could still do these crazy trips and be the athlete I wanna be, but I don't need to look a certain way, or I
Mhm,
don't and especially as women, it's like, women are supposed to fit this certain archetype. We're told to be skinny.
mhm,
I'm a strong female athlete. I got big thighs. Like, I don't ca I, like, get to do such cool stuff with these big thighs, and I don't care.
mhm,
And I think there's this wave of registered dietitians, of athletes who are starting to right now, it's challenging, but there's a wave of people who are saying, "Hey, if you look more muscular and not super tiny, like, that's good. That's a
mhm.
good thing." And I think it's so hard, again, especially in the environment and ecosystem we're living in right now, to know what to listen to. But the thing about food is it directly impacts what you look like, and that's a mental challenge. Like, I'm gonna eat this thing, and therefore I'm gonna feel bad about myself because I ate this thing. And that to me was the mind shift I needed to make to take me from, like, disordered eating tendencies to, "I'm gonna eat this thing, and I'm gonna freaking get up this mountain, and I'm gonna
Yeah,
eat a whole cinnamon roll, I'm gonna feel great about it." And it's not about just like, I don't earn my food. It's not about that at all, but it's about putting the things into my body that are going to make me be the athlete I wanna be, whether I'm skiing or not, and make me feel good and happy and all that kinda stuff. So, food is just, like, really personal because
mhm,
you see, I think people say, "This food equals bad. This food
yeah.
equals good." That's not how food works. Like, it shouldn't work like that.
100%. There is no, like, good inherently, like, good or bad, right? Especially when you're about to go do something, like, crazy. You're gonna burn most of that off, right? Like, of course, there's gonna be, like, some kind of impact or so, like but it's again, like I mentioned in the beginning, the for our core listeners, the messaging we got growing up of, no carbs or no sugar, low fat,
Low
all this
fat.
or that. I like to believe a lot of that is changing and that a lot of people out there don't listen to that anymore. But I don't know. I know that I don't as a someone who's learned a lot more about nutrition and activity and all that over the years. But that still very well may be what a lot of the general, like, public and recreational athletes believe, and it's also hard, I think a lot of our society does kind of go one way or the other, right? Where it's like, "Oh, well, now you're telling me it's not bad, and I can go eat all the Nerds gummy clusters I want," right? And as long as I'm going on a run or a ride or a ski, then it doesn't matter, but it's like, well, like, how yeah, how long is that? Do you really need all of that sugar or carbs for the energy you're about to expend? So we still have to think about it a little bit, but enter people like you and Neve, like providing something that is good nutrition and tastes good and easy and all that too, where that's eliminating the thought of like, am I doing something hard enough to like burn off all of this other stuff where I'm
Yeah.
not going to see the effects on my body or whatnot? And just again, that mindset shift of instead of, "Will putting this in my body make me look a certain way? Will I gain weight? Will I be, like, inflamed?" This, that, or the other, like, how do we think of it more as fuel? Like, putting this in my body is going to make my thighs bigger in the best way because it's gonna help me build muscle to get up these hills.
Yeah. Yeah, again, it's so deeply personal, and I look at pictures from trips I took when I was in college, and I'm like, "Oh my god, I was really skinny." And
Yeah.
I've absolutely gained weight since then, and I still have moments where I, like, shame myself and my body, and they definitely happen a lot less. Like, but it happens because I'm human, I'm a
Mhm.
woman, and it's easy to compare, again, being out Strava or stuff it's so easy to be like, "Oh, well, you did this much vertical and you look like this, so therefore," and that's so dangerous, and I'm so guilty of this because what do
Yeah.
they say? Comparison's the thief of joy.
Yes.
But, I don't know, there's a place in your diet for all sorts of food, and it's just balance. All
Mhm.
it is balance. It's like, I don't know, I think saying, "I can't eat this," and villainizing food is how we get to these places like I did of disordered eating, and, um, it's just education, and I think food marketing is really good, where they're
Yeah.
like, "Put protein in everything and you're a superstar," and I'm just like, "This protein craze needs to die a hard death." Like, it needs to die. Um, so yeah, food is hard, and I'm not a registered dietitian, I like to be very clear about that. I've done a lot of research and consulted a ton and had a registered dietitian develop with me, but, I don't know, it's personal.
It is so personal. I mean, like we mentioned, everyone's journey is in how their body moves, how their body changes, the fueling that you need. Because when you mentioned you were under fueling, and we're going back to the days where it's like, yeah, Cliff Bar, that's what you got. And I was
Gross.
right there with you when you were like, it could take like all day to eat it because I got to the point where I had eaten so many because they were the only thing to have, on the go with the jobs I was doing and just always having something to be able to munch on that I would take a bite and be like, "That's all now I've lost my appetite." Like, I can't even force this down because I cannot eat another fucking one of these,
Yeah.
um and just always not realizing that I was under fueling and it still being a fight in my head of, "Oh, is this why, like, climbing is hard for me? Am I not fueling right?" Because instantly we go to the thoughts of, I haven't trained enough, I'm not in shape
Right.
enough, and, like, my body's too big right now to get me up
And
this hill
therefore I eat
easier.
less. Yeah.
Yeah. So a very vicious cycle and trying to it is really your own body a science experiment of how to fuel yourself for the activities and things that you're doing, but I think by what you're doing is, like, kinda taking away trying to anyways take away this barrier of intimidation to people and have this accessible is for all of those of us who are out on the go between adventures and work and all the things that just having these things, again, in your car, it could be after that short run, but you're running to work now or running to pick up the kids that here's a
Yes.
delicious tasting, like, pouch that's gonna, like, fuel you as well, again, like, taking out the idea that you have to be doing something crazy to have this, to enjoy this, and you mentioned as well that each you wanted everything to be very intentional, each ingredient to do something. I was scanning the website, checking things out, and the first thing I clicked on was your post about, like, tart cherry and the specifics there, so can you talk a little bit about your decision making in what you're, like, putting in the products?
Yeah, for sure. So just we have 2 flavors, for now, and each flavor is designed to fit an athlete's nutrition strategy in a different way. So the boysenberry beet flavor, which is my bestseller, is designed, for sustained energy, so it's great for before or during activity, and the tart cherry cacao is kind of my recovery flavor or for longer efforts. So the boysenberry beet, the reason it's for, like, during your pre-activity is it's a little bit higher in the carb count. So there's 23 grams of carbs, but there's ingredients like beets, which are proven to be, which have nitrates in them, which are blood thinners. So it kind of helps your blood, flow a little bit better. Boysenberries have antioxidants in them. There's coconut cream in here, so that's a fat. So that's going to be why it's going to be your long and slow activity, not your high intensity fuel. And then there's a lot of electrolytes in here actually. So the boysenberry beet has more electrolytes than a 20-ounce Gatorade, which is really cool. And that comes
Wow.
from or sorry, not the banana, the coconut, and the salt. So we're actually putting electrolytes in here, and a bunch of nutrients that you wouldn't get from a Cliff Bar because you can actually put like fruits in here.
Mhm.
And then the tart cherry cacao I say is my recovery flavor because that one actually has added protein, the boysenberry does not. So the tart cherry cacao has 5 grams of pea and rice protein, and I know a lot of people are like, "Only 5 grams," but it's actually really intentional. So current science and registered dietitians experts say you want a 4-to-1 carbs to protein ratio for recovery after endurance activity. So in the tart cherry cacao, we have 20 grams of carbs and 5 grams of protein. So that's your 4-to-1 ratio. And the reason it's gonna be mostly carbs, if a lot of people I think a lot of people think you just need protein, but that's
Mhm.
actually not true. After endurance events, you want carbohydrates. And the reason is because you deplete your glycogen stores. So that's glycogen stores are just stored carbohydrates. So you're out there running for however long and you're just depleting and depleting and depleting your carbohydrates and you need to fuel those up and that's actually what's going to help you feel good the next day. And you also want protein. I'm not saying you don't. I just think within that first 45 minutes or hour or whatever, you want to get more carbs than protein, so that 4-to-1. And then also as you recover later in the day, add some protein in there. But then the tart cherries are in there because tart cherries are antioxidants and also proven to aid in recovery. Cacao is also anti-inflammatory. So a lot of cool like, we're just taking food and celebrating food for what it is, and I think that's really cool.
It is really cool. What I think is really cool and different too about what you're doing is that these 2 different flavors serve 2 different purposes, and I'm sure that those can be a little bit nuanced, right? But you don't often see that. You just see somewhat like, here's a carb mix and here's all the flavors, and that makes things easy, right? Very easy for the consumer that they know what they're getting, they know what it's for. But I love this idea that you have that one is a little bit better for the recovery and one is for like the long slow because it's also teaching people about I think these ingredients and things too, which at least in my head and what I would hope for some people, obviously you're going to have the just people who go buy whatever, put something in their bellies and it works great. But if you are able to also give a little bit of education to the consumer and hope that now they can go off on their own and add that into their regular diet can just be so helpful for their overall health and athlete pursuits or whatever you want to call it. Because I've heard some of these things before, especially with tart cherry. I think tart cherry is pretty big for like menstrual cramps, right? I was having a moment, I believe, in a lot of things for taking that to ease some pain there. And again, I'm sure that's very nuanced, but beets, like, you've just made me think about them in a different way. I love a good beet juice. There's this store in
Yeah.
town that I love getting that beet juice or a beet salad at the restaurant I work at, but I'm like, "Oh my god, I can't wait to now every time I have these beets, I'm thinking about them in a different way than I did before, not just like, oh, these are obviously a healthy choice in antioxidants, but I never thought of them in a, like, kind of pre-fuel type of way." So it's
Food is
like
cool. Food is so cool. It's pretty magical. And I think people are like, "Oh, you have this it's all fruits and vegetables," but I'll fuel on anything. Like, I think I preach diversity, at least for me, that what's worked for me. I'm N of 1, so everyone needs to figure out what works for them. But I think diversity in your fueling strategy is so important, so that's why there's space for all sorts of fuel.
yeah, it can be I think the food conversation overall, like, this is where people can get intimidated too, not just by sport nutrition and thinking, like, "I'm not enough of an athlete or something to need to have this pouch nutrition," but just that it can do so many different things, we react so different and depending on the freaking day, right? Like, what you need or
Yeah.
what it can do, and there's so much noise out there about food as we've talked about and what you should be, like, aiming for or prioritizing, and it gets overwhelming. I think most of us end up in analysis by or paralysis by analysis, and, like,
Yeah.
what do I do? So I'm just like I know I definitely do at times even having, kind of a wider knowledge than some. It's not fantastic by any means or super scientific, but I still fall back to, yeah, the protein and prioritizing that, but that's based on my goals, right? Muscle growth and sustainability is like number 1 for me being able to lift very heavy things, not being able to not like
Yeah.
long endurance efforts or anything. So, yeah, I do prioritize that more, but I do know I need like the carbs for recovery, but yeah, there's just some days or times that it's like, "Oh my god, I don't know what I need." So like I'm just gonna grab the easy thing, and that can be so hard, but again, coming back to just having these types of things that you've created available for to be that easy thing that someone reaches for before or after an activity.
And I think what I've done a bad job of is, like, people think you can only use this during activity, but that's
Yeah.
not true. Like, if you're
Yes.
going to the gym in the morning and need to get some fuel in, great option. If you're at your desk and you just need a snack, great option. If you're, like, just a human and need to put good food in your body, like,
Yeah.
great option. I think I'm trying to show people that, first off, energy bars aren't it. Like, there's a world
Mhm.
of fueling beyond the energy bar aisle. And that fueling can be good. Like, I think people are like, "Ugh, it's just gonna be bad." Like an energy bar, I know what to expect, and that expectation is low. But I'm trying to show people, let's flip that narrative. Fueling can be fun even when you're 20 miles into the backcountry. And that's been fun to see people's reactions when they try this and they're like, "Whoa," because I think people expect it to be bad.
Yeah, because
So
it is
people
a certain kind
Yes,
of nutrition. It's
yes.
something in a pouch, and because of, again, the folks that we're talking to and what you may have, like, kinda grew up on, so to speak, for energy things where you either had a million that you're just over it, and, yeah, you're thinking, like, "This can't be good because it's meant to be quickly digestible, easy on the gut, and, like, for activity, so,
Yeah.
of course it's not gonna be good," but it's like, "No, no."
Surprise, it is.
Yeah, totally. And, one thing that I love talking about too, again, is, because our listeners are of all sorts of variety, the athletes out there pursuing long things or recreational, whatever, just running around, like, or just my phases, I go through many cycles in life of being more active or less, but I still am always on the go. So, I do have, like, honey stinger waffles, somewhere all around for just going to the gym or something, because I know I'm not gonna, again, sit down and eat a breakfast, have enough time to digest it some days before going and doing the thing, so I'd like to have a lot of these quick things on hand and also know that, um it's not gonna be just a bunch of, like, junk or sugar or not taste good, and I just have to, like, get it down. So, again, these are things you can have on you for quick hits, and so I am interested in that with them being the pouch and, like, once you open them, I'm assuming that, uh, they have a bit of a shelf life there. It's not like you have to have the whole thing immediately, whatnot. You could screw a top back on, put it back in the bag.
Yeah, that's the cool thing about the pouch, that an energy bar will never be is the pouch is resealable, so you don't have to eat it all, you can cap it back up and throw it in your pack. I recommend tossing in the fridge if it's open and you can finish it on your next adventure. I find open ones in my packs all the time, and I eat them, and I am still here, so professional in me, hey, put it in the fridge. The athlete in me would say, "You're gonna be fine." Like, it's
Yeah.
gonna be fine. And so, yeah, these are shelf stable because I wanted them basically, I wanted you to be able to throw it in your pack and forget about it, and it's there when you need it. So I when it was not just the ingredients that were for athletes, it was the whole format. The pouch is awesome for athletes because it's resealable, because you can fuel as much or as little as you want, because you can cap it back up and save it for tomorrow, because you can fuel in precarious situations and not have to chew. Like chewing, back to the Cliff Bar, like it's hard to chew a freaking Cliff Bar. Like
Yeah,
you gotta go to the
especially in
dentist.
the winter, right?
Yes, when it's cold and frozen, and like not chewing is a huge benefit, like, it's a huge benefit, so, I know I look at this product and I'm like, "It's 100% for and by athletes," and I think that's really cool.
I've been also seeing I don't know, it's kinda crazy the timing because, we've had this on the calendar, but I haven't, like, necessarily spoken aloud about it a lot but yesterday, I had a lot of stuff coming up on my Instagram, and I'm like, "Wait, did my phone hear me, or did it get into
Ama
my calendar?" Yeah. A lot
Oh,
of,
the
like,
ads are
yes,
working.
Neve ads, exactly, so I was like, "Oh, this is crazy timing," because I'm like, was I actually actively kinda, like, talking about it, looking it up or whatever where it hit my algorithm, but it's like, "No, I wasn't," and it was all the normal stuff, and it'd
Huh,
been, a couple weeks or so since we'd been in touch, but last night, or yesterday, whatever, throughout the day, and I did read one of your ads saying that you were or post, I'm not sure if this one was sponsored or not, but whatever, talking about ads and putting them out there and stuff, and I just wanted to say, I'm like, "Nora, it's working, like, don't worry, like, people
hard.
are
It
seeing them," which is, I'm sure, just a whole 'nother journey you're trying to figure out, so, you've got this company, you've got 2 flavors, are what's distribution look like for you, and how are you navigating, like, growing this because also I know that you have another job, as many of our guests on the podcast do. It's like you have this beautiful website, Instagram, company going on, and from an outsider, it's always easy for us to assume like, "Wow, look at they've got this company, they're doing great," but many times, more often than not, this person's still working a full-time fucking job,
Yeah.
and so hustling hard. But tell us a little bit about what your kind of, like, day-to-day is looking like trying to navigate growing a business on the side.
Yeah. Firstly, ask any questions you want. I like to be really transparent because I think transparency is important, and yeah, just that's A. Um, Growing a business is it's incredibly hard. Like I think you're referring to my Instagram post yesterday. Where I was like, hey, these are in the past 2 months, this is all the garbage I've dealt with, and I am gray hairs. Like, I had one prize gray hair, and now I have so many. I'm like, "Is this healthy?" Like, it's I don't know. I think when I say it's really hard, people are like, "Okay, so it's hard." I'm like, "No, no, it's, like, deeply hard." So, yes, I have a full-time day job. So, Neve is definitely my dream to do full-time. It's just about getting there, and we still have a bit to go before we get there. But it's just making sure I'm taking care of myself. So like this morning, for example, I got up and skinned some laps. We actually just got a puppy, so
That's what I
now
saw
I'm
too. I was like, "Wait, is this real? Is she using someone else's puppy or is this real
No, it's
content?"
mine. We just got a puppy. Yes, it's real, Louie. I'm so in love. I've never been so in love in my life. Tell my husband I said that, it's fine. Um, and so I was a little stressed this morning because my husband actually just went to Asia last night. He's a designer for a backpack designer, so he has to go to Asia twice a year. So I'm like on puppy duty by myself for 2 weeks. So anyway, and then I go to my day job. I do my day job all day, and then time to switch brains and focus on Neve. Try to do some Neve stuff sometimes, like if I can, have extra time during the day. And then I'll work until I can't keep my eyes open, which, I'm a sleeper, so it's like 11 typically. I try if I enough, it's, like, not good. So I try to be mindful of that, but I'll get up pretty early and work out, do the day job, and then back to Neve work. So it's been a lot of sacrifice. I transparently, like, I've never had a job where I looked forward to working, and with Neve, I'm like, I'm on a bike ride, I'm like, "Oh, I have this idea, like, I can't wait to get back to my computer." And that's been a really real like, crazy shift, and it's cool to have something you're so passionate about that you're, like, driven to do, but yet there's so much like, every day is, like, 10 failures and 10 reasons to cry. And then, like, 0.0001 wins, and maybe it's because I, like, only focus on the bad, which is not a great personality trait. Um
I am the same. I've had that
Yeah,
conversation here on the podcast, a negative, like, bias,
yeah,
something I actively work on, but I get it. I get it.
yes. It's hard too because, like, I live in, like, the mountains like you do, and there's just not a lot of, like, therapists here, and I've been
Mhm.
looking, and I'm like, "I need help. Can somebody help me?" Like, "Hello?" Um, so I'm exhausted, I'm pretty tired. A lot, but I have the energy right now because I'm young, and again, I this year my goal is figure out how do I do this full time or have a
Mhm.
path to doing it full time. You asked about distribution. I am the distribution. I shifted from I was focused on wholesale, so like retailers when I first started, but just with the current environment, retail partners aren't really willing to take a risk on newer brands, so I've actually shifted more focus on D2C. That's like where the med ad comes in. I've been testing and experimenting a lot, so that's been I feel like in the past 2 months I started Neve November 2024, but the past 2 months, I've really started to focus on growing this. Not that I wasn't focused before, it was just my eyes kind of opened to how I actually could do it. I feel like I went through like a grad school level education the past 2 months, it's been crazy. So right now we're focused on D2C, we're doing a lot of ads testing, we're just trying to figure out how do we get nutrition to the people? How do I grow this? How do I make it my full-time job? And how do I be a human and take care of myself and be a partner and a husband and a friend and a puppy owner and a daughter and a sister while I do it all? So it's hard.
Yeah, I 1, appreciate your transparency so, so much because we hear that a lot. Every founder or anyone who's like, "Oh, it's hard," right? But, like, they don't always feel like, digging in, or they're just kinda going over the general, like, "Yeah, it's hard starting a business, not knowing, like, what you were doing," and whatever, but, like, it is, I think, so helpful to share a little bit deeper into those stories for the everyday person to just kind of relate to you more, and I've said this before, but a big goal of the podcast too, and having guests on, is to show that human side of people, to get that connection out there with the consumer, with the customer, that like, hey, we're right here alongside you, trying to do this and making life work. Shit is hard right now. The world is on fire, and we're all just trying to navigate it in our own ways, and it's just helpful sharing that sometimes, just to
Yeah.
be on that real human level with each other, especially with, like you mentioned, the retailers, and so your whole kind of the way you're operating your business, changes, and it's a vicious cycle that the retailers are in too, with not yeah, totally understand them being in the position there of not being able to take many risks or try new things, but then that forces companies like yours to go D2C, direct to consumers. So the consumers are only going online. They're not finding it in their local shop. And now again, it kind of cuts off the connection for that
Yeah.
everyone wants with a retail store. Like, your customers want to go into their favorite store and find their favorite product. They want to find Neve, but they can't now, or, might not be able to without this trial and the chance, but again, it's, like, you can understand, I'm sure, where they come from, but it's like, how do we all work together? How do we keep this ecosystem going, And
Yeah.
it's a tough place right now for small businesses in the outdoor industry for sure.
Yeah, and my hope is like, if I get more people to buy from my website, then they go into a local store and say like, "Hey, I'm trying this awesome product. Like, you guys should totally carry it." And that honestly, like for me, cold pitching, it could take me so long to land an account cold
Mhm.
pitching. But like Taryn, if you went into your local store and you were like, "Hey, this product is awesome. Like, you guys should think about carrying it." Like that carries so much weight. So I'm not it's not that I'm thinking about not pitching
Mhm.
retail partners, it's thinking about how do I change the way I'm doing this instead of me pushing, like how we turn
Yes.
it into them, like pulling. So it's just like a change of perspective on how I'm kind of approaching the business right now.
Absolutely, and I get that. We've had, a lot of those stories on, and one of the things I always tell our listeners, whether it's a brand that is in some bigger stores or not, is the best thing you can do to support this business is to go into your local store and say, "Hey, do you carry
Yes.
XYZ?" Like, and, obviously, even you can go off on whatever tangent then you like, of like, "Oh, you love it, it's the best, this, that, or the other," but simply asking that question of, "Do you carry this?" can go a long, long ways. That person, you
Absolutely.
don't know who you're talking to in a small store, if it's the buyer, the owner, or a sales associate who's gonna take that on and just say, "Hey, you know what? We've been getting a lot of people asking about this brand." That puts the thought in that decision maker's head, and it moves the needle so much more than a cold email from you. It does, and I'm sure you are, like, tired of it gets exhausting sending out, 500 freaking
Yeah.
emails, whatever, for maybe 4 responses, and you need a little help from the community sometimes to really
Yes.
it the message coming from you, the founder and owner, doesn't always come across sometimes because people just think that, you're trying to sell something because
You're
duh, you
selling.
are. But it's also obviously a true belief in your product, but it is so much more powerful when it comes from the person
Yeah.
unbiased using it.
And I think I speak for all founders about this, but when customers do that, it, like, makes me cry every
Yes, oh
time.
my god.
Like, when
Yeah.
people say, like, "Hey, I tried your product." Like, I was at an event, in October, and some woman comes running up, and she goes, "Nora, hi," like, and she starts talking to me. I'm like, "Who's this lady?" I have no idea. She's like, "I tried your product. I love it. Like, I bought everything at Bankgate. Like, I just wanna say I love what you're doing. Thank you for making this." And I was like Oh my god, do you have a tissue? Like,
Yes.
it just, like, you pour I know people say, like, "This is your baby." Yes, you pour your heart and soul. You give it everything, like, it impacts your entire life, like, it's
Mhm.
hard for me to shut my brain off and not think about Neve right now, ever, and it really impacts your life, so when someone does that, like, it's that small thing that it's the best feeling in the world, like, I don't know, it makes me so happy.
Those are the moments that are, like, an analogy of a neve in a pouch, right?
Yeah.
Refueling you to go back into your
Yes.
business
'Cause there's a
that
lot that takes the fuel away.
yeah, so it is that cliche of, all these no's, 100 no's, and that one yes makes all the difference. It's so true, and getting that feedback from that person can just recharge you so, so, so much to go into that next day of work and say, "You know what? Fuck it. Today I am gonna send those 50 to 100 or whatever cold emails," because that one person coming up to me and telling me that, like, gives me the juice to go out and do it a little bit more, and so that's another thing I love to tell people and try to remind myself to do as well as, like, say even just to your friends, say that thing that you were thinking for no reason of, like,
Yeah.
"Hey, I just wanted to say you're awesome, you're beautiful, love you, like, I was just thinking about you, you don't have to text me back, just wanted to say hi, like, I was thinking of you." Again, that makes the difference in so many people's worlds and days, and I don't know, I read reviews a ton when I'm going to buy a new product. I definitely read them with a grain of salt because, some people are really like, "Oh, this is
Yeah.
crazy. This didn't
Yeah.
fit," or, like, that they didn't like it for the dumbest reason. I just read one recently that I was like, "You left a bad review because of that? Like,
Yeah.
what?"
Reviews,
So,
man.
yeah, you
They're
gotta take
tough.
them with a grain of salt, but they can definitely they can be a little bit helpful, and so if you are a person out there using a product and have a good review to leave,
Leave
do
it.
it. Do it. Just do it. Please tell
I
your good
I ch
experiences because it does help the people who are really looking for that kind of feedback and, be as, like, I guess, what's the word? Descriptive, I guess, is probably like, "Why?
Yeah.
Why do you love it? What did it help you do?"
Yeah. I check my reviews every day. I, like, check them, and I remember my first bad review I got, ooh, that sent me into the oh, man, it was bad. I I need to get better at
Yeah.
dealing with it. Because the thing you have to remember is, like, "Hey, this product, like" now I'm better at acknowledging this, but, like, you might not like it.
Mhm.
And that's okay because you have your own taste, you have your own palette, you get to decide the things you like, and that's okay. Like, this shirt might not fit you, so you
Mhm.
buy a different shirt. And I think I had to get thick skin about that really quickly, and some people won't like your product, no matter what the product
Yep.
is, there will always be people don't like it. So read those bad reviews, and then I'll email them, or I'll comment and say, "Hey, email me, I wanna know more, like, tell me
Mhm.
why." And, because I don't know, the critical reviews are almost more helpful than the good reviews because you learn a
Yes.
lot, and maybe it's not actually the product, maybe it's a lot of people, like, just don't like chocolate. So they try
Yeah.
my product, and don't like it, I'm like, "Well, you don't like chocolate, so you don't like the product. I could have told you that." So,
Yeah.
I don't know, it's the bad reviews they hurt, but
I
they are helpful.
I was gonna say with a food product, I can imagine that the bad reviews maybe aren't as helpful as sometimes with a clothing review or something where you can give a little bit of critical feedback of like, "Oh, it didn't fit me in the like, it was a little too short in the waist or tight in the waist, but big in the thighs," whatever the heck it is, like, something like that where with a different body type, you can figure out, "Okay, it fits this type of person better," but with food, I feel like bad reviews just gotta be like, "Oh, I didn't like the taste." And it's like,
Yeah.
well, yeah, like you said, you don't like chocolate, then don't why the hell would you buy this? For me, it is, I have a texture thing. I am
Okay.
not the best with, like, goos and, I haven't really tried I've been afraid, honestly, to try, like, pouches,
Yeah.
because of things like goos that I've had, and I'll taste them and like, "Okay, once it's" this is gonna sound terrible the way I'm wording it, "once it's in my mouth, it's fine."
Let's talk through this. Let's talk through this a little bit. So
But, um
texture was actually really important when I was building this product. Again, if you're a texture thing, like, when people come sample, I'm like, "I'm not gonna make you try this, but if you
Yeah.
want to, you should." So a lot of applesauce pa there's a lot of baby food. This was the other my critique is it's really thin, so it feels like you eat it and it's just like it just, like, runs through you so fast, and you're just
Mhm.
like, "Did I even eat anything?" And so with neve, I really wanted it to focus on it being thicker because I wanted to make that adult feel like they were putting food into their body that felt sustaining. It was also a little bit more again, like, the baby food just, like, drips out. Just felt like it went in you and, like, held together a little bit more. And I think that was also hard because some people take this and they're like, "Oh, it's going" they know what the applesauce is, which, like, the applesauce is a little chunky, like, that's not what this neve is. And so the texture I focused on a lot to make thicker, and a lot of people are surprised by the texture, but then a lot of people realize they actually really like it. But people don't know what to expect going into it. So texture was a big thing because I knew it'd be a big problem.
Yes, and I will say that even though I know that, like, it can be more of texture for me and how I consume a product like this, first of all, it doesn't mean I'm not gonna try it, and second of all, though, bigly, is like, I'm not gonna leave a review and say, "Oh, it's terrible," because I hate, pouch foods, like,
People do.
just
People
like,
do it all the time.
I
It's like,
bet.
"Okay,
That's why
cool."
it's like, okay, just don't leave a review because you're not giving me any critical feedback. So that's one thing I'd say too for people is like, if you do have something like, I'm not saying whatever, do whatever you want with reviews, but if you have a quote unquote like bad review or some critical feedback, especially with a small company, like reach out to whatever email is on the website or DM them on Instagram or something and
Yeah.
let them know because they wanna make the changes, and it's gonna be, again, something that may not affect, like, everyone and really help them make a change if you're just saying, "This sucked, I did not like it." But if you've got really something to say, that could help them solve other people whose problems who are maybe experiencing the same thing. So, like, don't be afraid to, like, reach out directly.
Yeah.
If you're gonna take the time to leave a review, you can take the time to fucking send a direct email instead. Like
I think people are taken aback by how much I'm asking for feedback, which is funny, and the other thing I've learned is people are really bad at giving feedback, like,
Yeah.
people are horrible. So people
They
will
can't
be like
explain their problem.
yeah, and that's okay, like, I'm happy to hold like, so a lot of times I'll be like, "Okay, this person's giving me feedback, let's actually understand what their feedback is," and as I talk to people, they'll be like, "Oh, I was saying this, but what I actually meant was that," and so I think also as a person receiving feedback, be curious and
Yeah.
ask follow-up questions because, Taryn, you might say, like, "I didn't like it for this reason," and I'm like, "Tell me like, why? Why?" Like, just keep getting into it and have that conversation. But, yeah, like, for me, like, I want everyone I'm like, "Hey, tell me your feedback. What did you think? Did you hate it? That's okay. Why do you hate it?" So I'm, like, actively seeking that out because if I wanna make this product better, if I don't have feedback to make it better then I'm not gonna make it any better. So I'm on the hunt.
Yes, I love it. Well, I think all of us too are more wired towards that negative bias, and getting negative feedback or critical feedback is always a little bit
It
harder,
hurts.
and I don't think there's anything more than, like, starting a product-based business to get that thick skin any faster of like, "Okay," realizing you're not for everybody. I think it's a trait that all of us would benefit for on the everyday level is just to know that you're not gonna be for everybody, and that's okay because the most important thing is that you're, like, being true to yourself and sticking to your values and things and being okay that that doesn't fit for everybody, but as long as you are living your truth and your values, then that's what's important, and in taking it back into the business, same thing, you are still going to create the product that's true to you and what you wanna put out there, and that's gonna fit so many more people than it doesn't, so that's
Yes.
the
Yeah.
important part.
Yeah, remember that one N of 1 is not gonna ruin your business, and also don't be a keyboard warrior. Like,
Yeah.
I had this one person comment on an ad, and they were, like 2 different ads, 2 negative comments. One of them was like, you're just, like, shrinking and pinking this," or another pink tax on a product, and then she commented another one and I commented back, I'm like, "Hey, this is actually all the reasons that, like, I this is for women and by women," and I, like, laid out the science, and actually one of my ambassadors popped in and was like, also kinda layered in the science, and this woman, like, it was very clear that or this commenter is very clear that she just wanted to attack because even when the
Mhm.
science was and I try to be incredibly polite and kind, even when the science was displayed, she was like don't tell me how to fuel, but, like, and and then she commented on another post that was, like, 450 for a pouch, and I was like, "Hey," like, seeing your comment, like, as I already offered, which I did, anyone take me up on this, I'm happy to walk you through exactly my cost breakdown so you can understand how I landed on 450 and how I'm actually not making that much money and how this
Yeah.
product actually costs a lot to manufacture. So, I think what I mean by that is, like, be a human. Like
Yes.
like, and I'm happy to be transparent and tell people exactly, like, "This is how much the pouch costs, this is how much the banana costs, this is," and to show people that, like, it's not 450 because 'cause I'm trying to price gouge you, it's 450 because that's how much the product costs to make, and I need to make a little profit, and, I don't know, be human.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely, and that's one thing, I guess we didn't get into, and we don't have to go down the rabbit hole being as we're almost at an hour here, basically at an hour, but what you just said was don't pink it and shrink it for women, or I was wondering if your marketing, I wasn't sure if it was directed towards women anyway, because through this whole conversation, I never got that that's anything that you were trying to do or push, and I'm sure you're not like, "Oh, no, it's only for women, men can't have this," but I just wanted to make the point to you is like, I don't get that messaging at all. I think it's like you are a woman-owned, founded company and all that's amazing, and you're gonna talk to women athletes because also they're ones who really need to hear this messaging, but I don't get the vibe that you are, like, trying to do this, like, pink tax and only talk to women, say, "This is what women specifically need," and try and, like, do it in this manipulative way that, "This is for women, so you have to have it." Like, I don't get that at all, so that lady's
Thanks.
definitely a
No,
keyboard warrior.
so with Meta ads, I was experimenting with like a "Hey, nutrition for women by women," which it is.
Mm,
Like I'm a
mhm.
woman and I brought in a female registered dietitian, and women are responding really well to the product, and it's all about like testing. But yeah, it's not like no men allowed. Like I
Yeah.
have a lot of superstar male customers who also love the product. So I don't know. When women attack each other, it's just like, come on, man, why do you gotta do that?
It's so silly, and I do think like, be careful out there for those pink tax things. When someone's saying this protein is specifically for women, it's like, well, what makes it for women
Yeah,
that it would work better than it, like, would work for a man kind of thing, and so, like, yeah, we do have to be careful for marketing ploys that way, but like I said, I do not get the vibe of like, "Ew, gross, she's trying to say, like, this is, like, somehow working with our physiology better than and, like, women need beets and women need tart cherry," like, whatever, like, no, it's just that,
these
like,
are
"Hey,
only for women
hey,
because they're
this
pink.
is yeah, this is for you as a woman athlete, like, but it could also be for whoever is out there
Yeah.
recreating, so, um, I I love it, I love it all, and I'm like I said, what you're doing and kinda differentiating the flavors of one a little more for recovery, whatnot, getting the messaging out there of, like, these are what this like, ingredients doing for you, focus on the recovery, the before, the during, all of it is super important, so, to me, it brings that side of education to people that I think is so beneficial for everyone to try to
Yeah.
do, but tell us a little bit too real quick before we get out of here, like, where people can find you, follow along, support, and
Yeah.
if there's anything, like, new on the horizon, and you did mention, like, trying to come up with another flavor, is that something yeah, where's that
Yeah.
all?
Yeah, so check out the website, it's eatneve.com, so EATNEVE.com. There's a trial pack, which is just 2 pouches, so $9 to try 2 if you are interested in trying. You can also check out our store locator. We are in about 40 retail locations, so definitely check that out. On Instagram, it's at @eat_neve. If you DM the follower or the founder, she will definitely answer. Um, TikTok, Facebook, all of those places. I'm hoping to launch a new flavor at the end of the year. We will see. I'm currently switching manufacturers, having, check out my last Instagram post to see all the
Yeah.
headaches I'm dealing with. But hopefully I would love to there's just so many cool things you could do with pouches because it's just like I don't know, you're not confined to, like, I don't know, with bars, you, like, have to do, like, a grain and a sticky thing and stick them together, but with a pouch, it's like, you could literally do whatever you want. I think that's so cool. So, yes, hoping to launch a new flavor this year, and if you try the product and you hate it, let me know. I wanna know why.
Yes. Oh, I lost you for a second, but we're back. Is there any, like, upcoming events or anything like that where people might find you in person over the spring or summer, fall, or anything like that?
Definitely over the summer. So this is I'm trying to navigate a new manufacturer, so I'm probably gonna be out of stock for a little bit in April. So buy now if you want to buy. But hopefully, so that means that I've had to turn down a lot of events that I wanted to go to. Which is a bummer. But in the summer, I'll probably be doing the Colorado event circuit too. So, follow us on Instagram, and I'm always sharing like where we're going, and subscribe to our emails, and yeah, reach out.
Awesome. Well, Nora, thank you so much for sharing your story, being so open about it all and the hardships. And I know I could go on and on about
I
so
know.
many things. So,
I was like, how many times did I cry in the last week? Okay, less and
yeah,
less.
yes, like that. It's like the incident report at work. How many days since last incident? Like, how many days since last cry?
Days or hours.
Hey, I feel you, and I'm not even in a product-based business. It's all hard. I'm just trying to, follow your passion, whether it's a hobby or, trying to make it into business, whatever it is. It's just fucking hard. It is hard to find the time to feel like it's worth it and all of that. So all of you guys out there who's listening, like I said, whether you're starting a business or not, you're going through the times of like, why is it so hard to you just like do the thing that I want to do? Why is it like it just is. There's a lot of other responsibilities and things in life that don't make it very easy. And especially again right now, we're I think all just feeling the weight of many different things. So just know that we're all out here sporadically crying like randomly, okay? So we can
Yeah.
be in the hardships together.
It took me 6 years to launch Neve, so it's
Wow.
it's work, and I'm always if anyone ever wants to talk about what it's like to start a business, I'm always happy to talk. I think networking and building a community is one of the most powerful things we could do, so definitely reach out.
Amazing. Thank you again so much for coming on, sharing everything, and being out there for people to reach out to and
Yeah,
knowing that you're the one that they are talking to. So,
I'm the one,
guys,
the only one.
check yeah, check the show notes and go follow Neve and check it out. Give it a try. Leave the feedback.
Please be back. Thanks so much, Taryn. This was great.
Yeah, you're welcome. All right, everybody out there, we'll talk to you next week.